In the American justice system, a system built on the ideals of fairness and equality, the concept of a jury trial stands as a powerful testament to these principles. It's a right enshrined in our Constitution, a safeguard against potential overreach, and a mechanism for ensuring that justice is truly served. The jury, composed of ordinary citizens from diverse backgrounds, is a cornerstone of fairness and democracy. These individuals, selected through a rigorous process, represent a cross-section of the community, bringing with them a variety of perspectives and experiences. When a trial ends, after all the evidence has been presented and the arguments have been made, the responsibility shifts to a small group of ordinary citizens. They become the arbiters of truth, tasked with the weighty decision of determining guilt or innocence. Jury deliberation is where the real work of justice begins. It's the heart of the jury system, a process shrouded in secrecy and guided by strict rules. It's where individuals from all walks of life weigh evidence, scrutinize testimonies, and grapple with complex legal concepts. They must sift through the information presented, separating fact from fiction, and determine the truth of the matter, and ultimately decide the fate of another person. This decision carries immense weight, impacting not only the defendant but also the victim, their families, and the community as a whole. This process ensures a verdict is a collective judgment, a decision reached through careful consideration and open dialogue. It's not the decision of a single authority, a judge or a prosecutor, but rather the collective wisdom of a group of peers. This shared responsibility helps to prevent abuses of power and ensures that the outcome is fair and just. Inside the deliberation room, behind closed doors, jurors must set aside personal biases, prejudices, and preconceived notions. They must approach the evidence with an open mind, willing to listen to different perspectives and consider all the facts. They must focus on the facts, guided by the judge's legal instructions, which serve as a roadmap for their deliberations. These instructions outline the relevant laws and principles that should guide their decision-making process. The discussions can be intense and emotional, filled with passionate arguments and differing opinions. As jurors debate interpretations of the evidence, challenging each other's assumptions and pushing for a deeper understanding of the case. The goal, a unanimous verdict, a decision where all jurors are in agreement, reached through careful consideration and consensus, reflecting a shared understanding of the evidence and the law. Jury deliberations uphold the principle of innocent until proven guilty, a cornerstone of our legal system, protecting individuals from wrongful conviction, ensuring that no one is punished for a crime they did not commit. As we examine the high-profile trial of Sean Diddy Combs and the intense media scrutiny surrounding it, understanding this process is crucial. It provides context and sheds light on the complexities of the legal system. It's not just a case, a collection of facts and legal arguments, but a fundamental act of civic responsibility, a vital component of our democratic society. Sean Diddy Combs, also known as Puff Daddy and P. Diddy, is a towering figure in the music industry. He's not just a performer, he's a music mogul and entrepreneur, a name synonymous with success and innovation in the world of entertainment. He's widely known for shaping the sound and style of hip-hop, influencing generations of artists, and building a global empire that spans music, fashion, and spirits. His influence is undeniable, his reach extensive. But now, the narrative takes a dramatic turn. In court, however, he faces a starkly different reality, a legal battle that threatens to overshadow his achievements. He is confronted with serious federal charges that carry severe consequences, potentially meaning life in prison. The allegations are grave, and the stakes are incredibly high. The central accusation is racketeering conspiracy, a charge that paints a picture of organized criminal activity. The prosecution is suggesting that Combs ran his life and business ventures not as a legitimate enterprise, but as a criminal enterprise, allegedly using his power and influence to engage in illegal activities. The prosecution alleges this enterprise involved a range of illegal activities, going beyond typical business misconduct. These activities include sex trafficking and transporting individuals across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. The indictment details disturbing accusations that have shocked the public. Combs has pleaded not guilty, vehemently denying the charges against him. He is insisting that all relationships were consensual, and that there was no coercion or illegal activity involved. His defense team is preparing to fight the charges aggressively. The trial forces a re-examination of a celebrated public figure, compelling us to question the image we've come to know. The case hinges on complex legal definitions at play, particularly around consent, coercion, and the scope of racketeering laws. For the jury, the challenge is to look past the fame, the fortune, and the carefully constructed public persona. They must focus strictly on the evidence presented in court, separating fact from speculation, and determining the truth based on the legal standards. The outcome of this trial will shape not only Combs' future and legacy, determining the course of his life, but it will also significantly impact public perceptions of power, accountability, and the standards to which we hold influential figures in the entertainment industry. The world is watching, waiting to see how justice will be served. The Sean Diddy Combs trial spanned 7 weeks of intense courtroom drama. Jury selection was meticulous, setting the stage for a high-stakes decision. The prosecution and defense painted starkly different pictures: predator versus victim of false accusations. 34 prosecution witnesses built the government's case, sharing graphic and emotional testimony. Evidence included text messages, photos, and videos, plus items seized in a 2024 raid on Combs' Miami home. The defense surprised many by calling no witnesses, resting immediately and arguing the prosecution hadn't met its burden. Closing arguments gave both sides a final chance to persuade the jury. The judge then delivered detailed instructions. With that, the case was handed to the jury. Deliberations began, where the verdict would be decided. Key testimony shaped the prosecution's case against Combs. Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, described a relationship marked by control and alleged abuse, including a harrowing account of rape. Another witness, Jane, recounted being coerced into organized sexual events, supporting the racketeering charge. Rapper Kid Cudi testified about alleged retaliation after dating Ventura, including vandalism and arson. Physical evidence from the Miami raid, dozens of bottles of lubricants, was presented as proof of large-scale sexual events. The jury also reviewed digital evidence, text messages, and videos. These elements combined to create a powerful narrative for the jury to dissect. Every trial has key players: the judge, jury, and lawyers. Judge Arun Subramanian ensured fairness, ruled on evidence, and gave the jury detailed legal instructions. The 12 jurors, 8 men and 4 women, were tasked with weighing evidence and reaching a unanimous verdict. Their decision must be based solely on what was presented in court. Prosecutors aimed to prove Combs' guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, connecting evidence to the law. Defense attorneys challenged the prosecution, seeking to create reasonable doubt and arguing the encounters were consensual. The defense didn't need to prove innocence, just that the prosecution hadn't met its burden. The outcome depended on the jury's collective judgment. Each role was vital in the pursuit of justice. Early in deliberations, the jury raised concerns about one member's ability to follow legal instructions. The juror, a Manhattan veterinarian with a science background, was reportedly struggling with the judge's guidance. Such issues can threaten the integrity of the verdict, as all jurors must apply the law as instructed. Judge Subramanian responded by reminding the entire panel of their duties, emphasizing collaboration and respect. He avoided singling out the juror, hoping to keep deliberations on track. This incident highlights the challenges jurors face in understanding complex legal standards. The human element is both the jury's strength and its vulnerability. The trial's fate now rests on whether the group can overcome internal challenges and reach a just verdict. One major question was whether Combs would testify in his own defense. He chose not to, exercising his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Testifying carries risks. Cross-examination can damage credibility, especially for a public figure. The defense strategy argued the prosecution failed to prove its case without presenting an alternative story. The jury is instructed not to hold Combs' silence against him. Their verdict must be based solely on the evidence presented. The weight of the case now rests squarely on the shoulders of the 12 jurors. They've listened to weeks of testimony, examined countless pieces of evidence, and now they must deliver a verdict. Their decision will determine the fate of the accused. This jury is tasked with a monumental decision, ruling on 5 serious federal charges. These are not minor infractions. They represent significant accusations with potentially life-altering ramifications. For each count, the jurors must unanimously agree on either guilt or innocence. There is no room for ambiguity, no possibility of a split decision. Every single juror must be in complete agreement. The gravity of this responsibility cannot be overstated. Their deliberations are to be guided by strict legal definitions, as provided by the judge. They must set aside personal feelings and biases and adhere strictly to the law. The racketeering conspiracy charge, a complex and serious accusation, requires the prosecution to present irrefutable proof of an organized, ongoing criminal scheme. They must demonstrate that this scheme was not only in place, but that it was led by Combs. For the charges of sex trafficking, the jury must carefully consider all the evidence and decide if Combs used force, threats, or coercion to compel the alleged victims. This is a critical element of the charge. The prosecution must prove it was more than just unconventional relationships. The line between consensual, albeit unusual relationships and criminal coercion is what the jury must discern. Throughout the trial, the defense argued that all encounters were consensual, emphasizing the agency and choices of the individuals involved. They directly challenged the prosecution's narrative, presenting alternative interpretations of the evidence and witness testimonies. Regarding the charges for transporting individuals for prostitution, the jury must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs knowingly moved people across state lines. Furthermore, they must determine that this transportation was explicitly for the purpose of engaging in commercial sex. The intent behind the movement is paramount. Each verdict on each individual count must be unanimous. A single dissenting voice can lead to a hung jury. A guilty verdict on all counts could potentially mean a life sentence in prison, a stark and sobering reality. Conversely, a not guilty verdict across the board would result in an acquittal, freeing the defendant from all charges. It's also entirely possible that the jury could reach a mixed verdict, finding the defendant guilty on some counts but not guilty on others. Even a mixed verdict carries significant consequences for all parties involved, leaving a complex legal landscape in its wake. Ultimately, the jury's decision, whatever it may be, will have a lasting impact, not only on the lives of those directly involved, but also on the broader legal and social landscape. Once the jury reaches a unanimous decision, the verdict is announced in open court. If Combs is acquitted, he is immediately released. If found guilty, sentencing follows, with both sides submitting recommendations. A hung jury, if they can agree, means a mistrial and possible retrial. Even after a verdict, appeals are likely, potentially prolonging the legal battle for years. The world now waits for the jury's decision. Their verdict will determine Combs's future and send a message about justice and accountability. The stakes are high, and the outcome will resonate far beyond the courtroom. All eyes are on the 12 jurors as they emerge from behind closed doors.